fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren.
Heard on KCAA 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren, Mr. Dave.
Let's wait for a name. What name are you going to use this time?
That's the first time I've had too many names to choose from, and I don't know. I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
I can't think of a name. I just, some people can write 40,000 words in a week, and I can't think of a name in an hour. Like, something wrong with me. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do any more writing. I'm done.
That's it, Al.
That's it.
That's right.
I can't keep up to the 20-year-olds anymore. Oh yeah, that's just
need a vacation.
Vacation, yeah. And then I'd write on my vacation. Can you imagine that the AI versus author and writing 40,000 words a week? I was thinking, you must have a computer in the bathroom and like everywhere. Like you're writing when you're driving and when you're doing everything.
That's crazy. It's hard enough to do that in a month.
Well, yeah. I was just like, I don't know.
In a week?
I need to get some AI and plant it in my brain. Wow.
There you go.
There you go. That's got it made. Well, speaking of AI, we've got a writer, and he's got a new book out, Oceanus, and it's Scott Overton. So thank you for being here, Scott.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me, Al and David. Yeah, it's good to see you. No AI in my head. That was another book. That was 2 books ago.
Oh, see, I can't keep up.
Yeah, it wasn't AI, actually. Just that was about my book, Augment Nation, had, like brain-computer interfaces. But I didn't really put an AI in the device.
Are you worried about AI? Does that bother you? Does it come up with you? Do you think about it?
That's 2 different questions. Am I worried about it and does it bother me? It does bother me. Well, first of all, as a science fiction writer, what they're calling AI now is not what I think AI is. I think artificial intelligence means an intelligence, means like you and me, but mechanically created with a mind that can actually, create things potentially and understand what it's doing. Whereas the AI that they're calling AI now, there's no understanding there. It's simply more and more sophisticated algorithms in a mechanical kind of process. So does it bother me? It bothers me that they are, well, you see the meme that comes out on Facebook saying, I wanted AI to do my dishes and do my chores around the house so I could do the art. And what's turning out is they're doing the art and I'm doing the dishes, that bothers me.
From what I see of it, my brief encounters, it seems like it's not doing a very good job either.
Well, it's certainly flawed. You can't depend on it for factual, information being correct. You better not, because it does screw up from time to time, certainly. But I don't even go there. I don't even go there for research per se. And some people use it for promotional writing. I suppose it could work, but the idea of thinking of creative writing novels, writing fiction or nonfiction through AI just really bothers me because I don't know. It's just, well, another view of it is that they're plagiarism machines because everything that's been fed into them has been someone else's work. They're to the point of scraping so much data and needing to scrape so much data that they're scraping AI-generated data just to get more, to get more, to get more, to get more.
So you got to get working on it because they need more data. So you're not working fast.
I got to write some more books that they can scrape. But I don't even actually know. I've never checked the list to be certain whether they've ever checked any of my books and scraped the information. Probably some AI has. And with you've done 30 books. They probably have.
No, they wouldn't bother. As soon as they look at it, they go, no, it's just garbage. They reject mine and send it back.
No, I'm sure they scrape everything they can get their hands on. That's the way they teach these machines, the way they refine their algorithms. But again, there's no understanding there. And
yeah, That's kind of what I think. And I just hear all this.
So it's not what I would consider true artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I hear a lot of outrage about it and stuff and complaining, and I guess I'm out of touch. I don't get it so much. So what gets you into writing a new book? Like how does the idea come up for you?
Well, the people often ask authors where their ideas come from, and we generally say we don't know. They could come from anywhere. Anywhere. It could be inspired by something else that somebody has done, but you want to have a different take on it. It could be an older story. It could be just something that pops into your head when you're sleeping. I mean, but then I generally work with a concept and a theme or multiple themes that I want to explore. That's sort of where I start, and then I build from there. And the most important elements to start with after that would be the characters that will embody that theme or illustrate that theme and concept well, most efficiently. And then you work from there to the plot and how the plot might work through. And I am a planner, so I do a lot of outlining, sometimes several months. I mean, it has been known that I've worked for 3 months just planning and plotting out a book, working out all the details. And I don't even do all that much world building when it comes to science fiction, because most of my stuff is fairly near future. I don't generally go very far into the future. So what do I have to build? I might have to create some technology that is not here now, but is being developed or, will be soon. And with Oceanus, it's a present day or nearly present day kind of story. The plot of it is that an airliner flying over the South Pacific is hit by this blast of mysterious, unknown form of energy that is either coming from the ocean or to the ocean. It basically knocks out all the passengers and crew. So one of the main characters is a troubleshooter. He and this special agency are tasked with trying to bring this plane safely down. It's flying on autopilot heading for Japan. They've got to try to bring it safely down. So that's how the book starts. But they've got to investigate where this blast of energy or who it came from. So a team of specialists is assembled. They use a prototype undersea habitat and go to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean to find out what's there and what's going on. No one knows.
Autopilot, so that's AI.
Well, that's the plane, and it's actually kind of a plane that's flying right now. A modern jetliner can fly on autopilot. Landing it, depends. But in this case, they couldn't take a chance, so they have to try to get aboard that plane somehow in flight and bring it down safely. But that's just like how the book begins on the first page. It's right into the action right away, but most of the plot takes place on or under the Pacific Ocean in the area of Guam. I actually had to find a real spot on the bottom of the ocean where things would fit that would facilitate my plot.
Wow. So you really get into it then.
I get into the weeds sometimes with that kind of thing. Not every book. Just this book happened to be that way. And there have been some really good movies that are set in those kinds of settings, like The Abyss and Sphere, which was based on a Michael Crichton novel. But not all that many books that take you to the bottom of the ocean. It's the least explored place on the planet. So it's a natural setting for drama and danger and everything like that. And they don't know what's under there. Could it be extraterrestrials that are responsible for this energy? Could it be some other form of life on Earth that we've never seen before? They don't know. So that's where a lot of the suspense comes from.
Well, you say, you don't do a lot of world building, but that sounds like a lot of world building to me, to go, under the sea to the bottom. And it seems like it would require a lot of research as well.
Well, it does require research for sure. And I did, develop the idea of a nanotechnology based undersea habitat and pressure suits so that these people could operate under those crushing pressures at the bottom of the ocean without having to be using some exotic form of breathing liquid like they do in The Abyss at one point with the suits, or have them under pressure on such pressure that they can't come up easily. I wanted to have them under ambient pressure, surface air pressure, and yet still have a strong enough habitat that they could operate, and the suits that can operate. So that came down to a nanotechnology that I don't think is around, certainly now, but maybe in 20 years, which is basically when I set the book.
Yeah. Then, so now, so you come up with a story first, and then develop characters to fit into that story, or did?
Well, I come up with the characters to fit the theme of the story. For instance, this main character, Alex, who's a troubleshooter, freelance troubleshooter, like MacGyver, but he's not so gadgety. He believes that it's probably advanced aliens, extraterrestrials, who have been responsible for this blast of energy and didn't intend any harm. And he thinks that's a good thing because we have screwed up our planet so badly, they can save us and correct our problems for us. They're like going to be helping us work all the problems, the mess that we've made of the planet, and work it all out. Is that the way to do it? I mean, one of the themes that I wanted to explore was, should we depend on someone else to solve our problems? So you then get a character like him who is intelligent, but believes this may be great. This may be a good thing. Somebody will come from elsewhere, solve our problems for us. That's what I'm talking about, creating characters that can illustrate the theme or one of the themes of the book.
And how do you interact with your characters? How does it work for you, especially when you're doing dialogue? Is it like you dictate, you hear them, or is it something different?
I do think very cinematically when I'm writing, and a lot of people have said they find the books quite cinematic. They can picture it as a movie or as a scene visually and everything. So I try to write that. But with the characters, I've mostly written in third person, and only even after Oceanus, some of the books I've written are in first person. So I don't generally do a first person narrator in a novel. I've done it in short fiction. But I do use some tricks to try to get the voices of the characters. And one that I picked up from a brilliant writer named David Mitchell, who wrote Cloud Atlas, if you've ever known that book or seen the movie, is he would have the characters kind of write a letter to the author and say, hey, look, I know you're going to be exploring my life in this way. I'd really rather you didn't do this or whatever. And it's totally made up. But by doing that, you can kind of get an idea of how that character talks, how they would write, but how they would also talk. You can imagine it as a conversation with the author. You can write a dialogue with some other character and just get into it and try to distinguish those voices of the characters very clearly so that you don't even have to attribute this, Alex said this and Al said that. You do, but theoretically, they should be able to tell who's talking just because of that voice in the dialogue. So I use methods like that when I'm developing the character.
Well, after you've plotted out the book, do the characters surprise you? Do they, pull at that plot and kind of take you in directions that maybe you didn't want to go originally?
Sure. Absolutely, that can happen. I'm perfectly open to that. People, they always say there are pantsers and plotters, writers who write by the seat of their pants. They don't know where it's going, or plotters, and I would definitely fall in that category because I do so much planning out. But I plan it out. That's not meaning that it's carved in stone. I generally have an idea of where I want to go, but even the endings can very much turn out to be slightly different or largely different from what I originally envisioned. So yeah, the characters, if you've really fleshed them out well, they may well do something. They may well interact in a kind of a romantic relationship you didn't plan, or some other conflict or whatever. They might take the story in a different direction, and I am open to that. As long as you can still, get across what you're trying to get across and get to the finish line.
Do you ever have kind of a meaning or subtext to the story, something like this, that goes beyond the entertainment, even if it happened organically?
Oh, sure. I mean, this is kind of what I mean about the themes. Some of the themes in Oceanus in particular are fairly obvious. There's a theme of the abuse of the planet and that kind of thing. And also, whether we tend to underestimate other forms of intelligence that don't think like us, whatever they may be, whether they're creatures of our planet or creatures from somewhere else. We tend to dismiss intelligences that might not think just the way we do. So that's going to be part of it that's fairly obvious. But yeah, there can be subtexts that are in there. And, I whatever it might be, I don't want to hammer the reader over the head with it. I'm not about that. I'm going to write an interesting story. I'm going to try to write characters that they can believe in, get behind, identify with personally, because that's how you have an emotional response to the book, and go wherever that goes. And whether the reader takes it as a surface story with action and excitement, or whether they dig deeper, that's really up to them at that point.
And your action and violence and scenes that are a little bit more aggressive, are you more conscious of how you write those today, or do you just let it go however it turns out?
Well, I think everybody's conscious about issues and scenes that might trigger someone, as that's a concern of writers more now perhaps than it was once. And sensitivity, if you're writing different characters from different backgrounds, diverse characters or such. So you're aware of that, conscious of that. As far as action goes, I don't get super bloody. I'm not writing horror, so I'm not looking for that kind of emotional response. I have decided that I don't get very graphic when I'm having sex scenes, for instance. There are things that I've decided as I've gone through my writing career that I will tone down, but action, it just really comes down to making it believable. It has to happen fairly quickly and keep the reader engrossed. So, the first line of Oceanus, I think, is something on the order of, how long can the plane fly with both pilots dead? And the second person says, well, we don't know they're dead. The first person says, you're assuming they are. How long? So I think from there, you're bang on into action and immediately wanting to know what happens next.
Well, how do you create your aliens? Do you draw from, the real world and real organisms on the planet? Or do you delve really deeply into your imagination to try to look at things that, we may not have thought of?
Well, now I'm not saying whether there are or there aren't aliens in this, because there's in Oceanus, because there is that suspense. What is there? What is, I don't want to give away too much as far as that plot goes, but I certainly have written alien characters in numerous stories and books. And it's really hard to plan out what they would think. That's, really some of the fun of it. I had a very strong alien symbiotic character in a book of mine called Naida, and I really enjoyed that, but that was a case of a character that didn't know not only anything about humans, but didn't know anything about her own species, her being that she identified with the female of our species when she learned a bit more about us, but, really had no gender. And, you have to try to put yourself in a mind that shouldn't think exactly the way we do. And yet, if you don't have some grounds for identifying with them, some elements in common with that thought process, your reader is going to be just totally lost. They won't understand it. There have been some science fiction writers who have written some very, very alien aliens, and they managed to pull it off brilliantly. But it's also very hard to navigate that as a writer, to make sure that the reader is still able to identify with them, either like or hate them, depending on what you're trying to create there. But they've still got to be able to figure them out. They can't have such an alien process that you're going, what are they going to do next? I can't figure out why they did this or what they're going to do next, unless chaos is your total aim. Maybe that is.
There would be with Dave.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
completely.
It could be a good way to approach it, right? Just chaotically. No way of predicting what these aliens are going to do, because they just have no relationship with the way we think and our needs and our type of operation,
I like it. Maybe write a book about it.
Maybe that's my next book. Chaos. Chaosius.
Chaos.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Us chaos. Well, listen, when you write characters like that, like aliens, or even characters that just are not like you yourself, let's say, or what you've been, the kind of lifestyle you live and the kind of people around you, how do you get into to writing the dialogue and the insights of that character when it's not really who you are?
All you can really do, I think, is base that on what their goals are what their life goals are, what their priorities are in life, and how they do relate to people. That those two things are going to decide how they talk to people, how they interact with people in virtually every way. What are they trying to achieve in each moment, in each interaction, and how do they interact with people? Are they naturally antagonistic with people? Are they always looking for consensus and cooperation with people? So it would be that sort of thing. Now, I didn't really try to get anything too complicated with the team that I have in Oceanus, and it is one of the largest significant casts of sort of main characters that I have ever had. But you've got the troubleshooter character, you've got a reluctant telepath, meaning she has these telepathic abilities, but really hates it because it's mostly been grief for her. We've got a psycho, I don't even know how to call it. I call him a sociotheologist. He's a sociologist. He's got a lot of theological background. He happens to be blind, but has technology to compensate for that. I have some physical challenges in some of the characters, and they use technology to compensate. So I got another specialist in biology, and especially different creatures and manifestations of different life forms, because again, they're trying to investigate what is there. Could be aliens, could be some other form of life. So you got a sort of xenobiologist, meaning specializing in exotic or alien forms of life. There's a Navy diver who is overseeing some of the diving operations. There's almost a spook type character as far as special agency, unnamed government agency, whatever you want to call him. He's a special operative type. All of these different characters, but they can't conflict too much because they are tasked with solving this problem. They have to work as a team.
Do you have a favorite character? Is there one that always sticks out each time you do a book?
Gee, I don't know. I mean, there are so many different characters that I love, and yet I've never written a series as far as continuing the characters on in another book. I've just always wanted, I think that comes back to exploring a specific theme or specific concept. Once I've done it, it's done. So I'd have to come up with some other thing that would fit these characters and make them sensibly in that story. In this book, the two main characters are Alex, who is the troubleshooter, and Elle, who is the reluctant telepath, reluctant psychic of sorts, because they're thinking, first of all, that she is in another plane elsewhere when this one of these blasts of energy happens, and blacks out and sees visions. So they seek her out. She is not that close that she was damaged by it, but she's close enough in another aircraft at a different time. They seek her out and think she can maybe help us communicate with whoever this is. She might be able to help us find it by triangulation. You know, are you sensing something here? No. Okay, we'll go a little closer to here. Are you sensing something now? And that's part of what they use early on in the book to triangulate a location to explore, because they don't know where this originated exactly or where it was aimed to. So those are the two main characters, and I like both of them. They're both pretty interesting characters, and they have a pretty strong interaction with each other over the whole course of the story.
Well, what's the most challenging book? What's the book that has been the hardest for you to write?
That's kind of tough to say for sure. The last one that I talked about with you was Augment Nation, and that was, brain augments and a very cautionary story. And that's not the happiest book I've ever written. It's a tough book, and it's meant to be kind of frightening and disturbing. So that really had to work at to get it right. And yeah, as far as tough going, I don't know. Each book I try to stretch myself, to be honest. I try to go in some direction that I haven't gone before, and tried something different about the writing or something different about the concept and how I explore it. Always trying to do something fresh and new, so it's fresh for me. It's very selfish that way.
Right. It's all about you.
Yeah, it's all about me. If I'm writing the same old darn thing, it's not going to be very interesting to me to write the whole project. Because as you know, writing a book takes a lot of work, a lot of time, and
oh no,
unless
40,000 a week.
Against
Come on.
yeah, Didn't want to go
Yeah.
there, but
Come on.
yeah.
You gotta up your game.
So-
Get some coffee in there.
Yeah, so I don't know what's really the toughest. I have one that I haven't gotten anywhere near publishing yet, but it does go out into space, and it involves a whole lot of people aboard this spacecraft that ends up going way deep into the galaxy, lost, basically. Don't know if they can ever get back. And I meant to write that thematically, kind of like Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, where it's a big exploration of the psyche as well as space. Trying to write, deep layers and everything. Who knows whether I overextended myself in that one. If it ever comes out, we'll find out.
Do you like to do that in books? Like have that kind of comparative, like that like you were saying, layers of, let's say the relationship between a couple of the characters somehow intertwined. It sort of moves along the same pattern as the story itself, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you always like to have some depth to the story. I don't like to have just one darn thing happening after another with no rationale, except I got to give my characters more trouble. I got to give them more conflict. I got to give them more danger to move the story along. That's not really what it's about. It's about exploring what you started with as a theme and digging deeper into the possible permutations of the concept that you're exploring, or what the implications will be. If this, then what? And if that happens, then what next? But it's not all about just action, or plot.
Right. And that in itself, I'd imagine that when you go through the process of writing one of these books, like especially let's say the new one now, you develop as a writer as well, doesn't it change you in some sense as a writer?
I hope so. I certainly hope so. And, some of the ones even that I've written since Oceanus, I've tried first person narration. I've tried a first person narration that was ostensibly an artificial intelligence, actually with an intelligence and understanding and awareness of themselves. That kind of thing, to see how it does stretch me. How do you approach that, and what new ways would you might write and approach those kinds of things? Because sometimes it's really hard to figure out how a character like that would narrate a story. Why would they narrate a story? And you're trying to get that across. So it's an interesting thing, but I always do like to challenge myself.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't always. You like writing the evil person, the one that whoever does the bad stuff in the book.
To be honest, I am not a writer who generally has strong villains, one villain person. They do say with villains, everybody figures they're the history of their own story. Villains don't see themselves necessarily as villains. They just happen to be in conflict with everybody else because their goals are different. In Augment Nation, there were some definite villainous kind of corporate types, and particularly one who gets into some of the introductions of some of the chapters and such. And in my last book before Oceanus, called Indigent Earth, the premise of that one is that the rich and powerful of the world have abandoned the Earth 500 years earlier than the story takes place. They've gone to live in space colonies about the distance of the moon and left everybody on Earth to fend for themselves, pretty much, with a very damaged Earth, and then promised they would come back in 500 years when the Earth may have been able to heal. So they do, and that's when the story comes back and begins. And there are two main characters in that one. One kind of video celebrity from the colonies in space, and one, an Earthman who sees his whole life as being a dead end, and he's just dying for these colonists to come back and bring him out of it and take him into space. Of course, that's not a great thing. And that does have some strong villainous, manipulative types pulling strings behind the scenes. But, when it comes to actors, they say they love playing the villains. When it comes to writing, I don't know. I just have a harder time, and I'm not being naive about this, a harder time identifying with them. So writing them is tough to actually put yourself in their place for their motivations. You know what I'm saying? To try to get realistic, deep motivations and get yourself in that head is hard sometimes.
You just have to go out to like the go grocery store for a while or something. Go to Toronto and drive around for a little while.
No. You just have to read the news
Read
about the politics. And you go, okay, I get it now. All right. I'm watching that trial.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when you want to see insanity.
There's where you go, chaos.
Yeah,
Yes, the chaos.
you know.
I don't think if you really want to model villains, you don't have to go any farther than the news headlines. Just investigate some of the stories that are going on. You go, okay, now I got it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I personally, I stay away from almost all of it because it affects my writing and what I am doing, because I'm not writing about that. I'm not in that area.
Yes.
And sometimes it's crazy, and that, because it affects you emotionally. When outside things affect you, kind of where you get mad or happy, or you get these, sometimes it makes the writing go. I don't know about you, but.
No, there's no question about it. I don't actually honestly spend a lot of time on the news. It's too depressing. I live on an island, truly. And it's a great place to be isolated from all that. If you don't want to think about what's going on in the rest of the world, you don't have to. So, it's good that way. I'm with you. It does affect you emotionally, and you'll go to too many dark places. And I generally like to have a hopeful outcome of my stories. Sometimes it's not entirely possible, and certainly not for all of the characters. Sometimes they don't all make it through. But I like to generally have a hopeful conclusion in some sense. A more hopeful tone to the book, ultimately, by the time you get to the end, than dark.
Right.
It may go through some dark places, but...
Yeah. Your main character only has one arm left. And and so technology and that, because you're writing, like you were saying, near future time and stuff. So how do you ever get into a place where you're kind of writing something and you kind of have a certain technology or a certain ability for your characters to do, or a certain invention that they've had, and it might not happen, or it might happen differently? Do you know what I mean? Does it ever?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, when I know what has to happen or what technical things have to happen, I really want it to be credible, because there are science fiction readers who don't care whether the science that credible or that credible that much, or and there are others who absolutely want every detail to be credible and based on real science or what is really plausible. And I'm trying to satisfy as broad a spectrum of that as that I can. So I try to make it plausible. I dig deeply into quantum physics. I dig deeply into astronomy if necessary, into genetics, biology, all of those things to get everything as credible as possible. And then you often will reach a point where the technology is just not there. The science, the research hasn't said that is absolutely possible, but it needs to happen. So you just kind of go, okay, maybe I have to fudge things a little bit in the sense of saying science that we just don't understand yet. A process. Well, you think about faster than light travel. How much science fiction would never happen if that isn't possible some way? We don't know a way right now with physics that it is possible. Our physics, as we understand it now, says it isn't possible. But if it doesn't happen, then you've got no story of all of these different science fiction stories. So we just kind of say it's a bit of science that we haven't discovered yet. We haven't quite found it out yet.
So what do you do that the world is flat? How do you make Oceanus? I mean, well, that's what I heard.
Yeah, Oceanus.
They told me it was flat.
Oceanus. I mean, I researched a lot of that with Google Earth, like I said, because it would find, you could even see the bottom, the topography of the bottom of the ocean. And I had to find a particular valley with ridges in this spot, because some of this energy transmission, whatever it is, has to do with the moon. So sometimes it's not going to be in alignment with this location on the bottom of the ocean floor. And I actually had to figure out the plot of the moon's travel across the Earth, because its orbit is not going over the same spot everywhere and at all the same times. Its pattern changes. And I had to pick a date, and I had to pick a spot, an actual date in the future that the story takes place, where the moon is going to pass over this certain spot on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. And I had to actually get in the weeds that deeply to do that.
Well, that's crazy, but it's kind of fun too, right?
It can be fun. Yeah, it can definitely be fun. And I don't have to always go that, picky for every story, but for this one, yeah, I had to do that. So I had to prove that the world is not flat, Al.
Well,
I'm sorry.
oh no, you mean it's not?
Because, well, the way the moon orbits in it and everything, I suppose it could go zip along the surface and then go down a little jog and zip along the bottom and come back.
Yeah, but there is no moon.
We're going to get all sorts of
That's
emails.
just a projection.
Yeah, no, I mean, because then now they're saying that there is no Australia, too, right? That
Who's saying there's
the
no
Flat Earth
Australia?
Society. If you go onto their website,
really?
they have
There's
300,000
no
plus
Australia?
followers, and they're saying that Australia never existed. That is, there's no such thing.
Oh, wow. I think the Australians might have something.
Well, they're saying that they're all
the Australian actors in Hollywood might have something.
well,
to
they're
say
all
about
paid
that.
actors. You see, if you meet an Australian, they're not really Australian. They're there. They work for the government to watch you.
You bet.
There are a lot of Australian actors, so maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't pay them very much, I guess.
Well, now,
Yeah.
you have interviewed my daughter, Danielle Cebulski, who is a medievalist. And
Right.
she probably told you that even back in the Middle Ages, they didn't think the world was flat. They saw things disappear over horizons and sailing ships go and sails would shrink down and stuff like that. They didn't generally believe the world was flat even then. They knew better.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
What can I say? I'm not here to explain these things. I just talk to people.
Yes.
You just report it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, come on. They're lighting themselves on fire in front of the trial. Come on.
Oh, my gosh.
These people know what they're talking about.
There's a rabbit hole we don't want to go down.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he was going to be the opening guest for you today. But
Colin, please.
what a world. You don't need science fiction for that. So,
Well, yeah.
what's next for you? Like, how do you have other projects going?
Well, I'm always writing, and the writing part is the part that I love, and so I just can't really stop. And I will do that until I drop, or I just can't read the words on the page or something, or on the computer screen. So I will keep doing it, and I'm always about 4 novels ahead as far as having completed a story. Now, there's more to the process because I will get what we call beta readers who are volunteers to read the book and find out if there's any bad stuff and give you feedback and everything like that. And I'll do that. Then I revise the book and then I go through the process for months with an editor that I hire. All of that, I still have 4 books that have not gone through that process yet that are written, and I'm writing another one. So I'm already 5 books ahead in the writing, ahead of Oceanus kind of thing. So my next project, I have not decided what next book I'm going to bring out yet. I kind of have a couple, one that jumps several hundred years ahead to a time when there are several different forms of consciousness manifested in plant life and in computers and in who knows what. And so I was exploring intelligence and consciousness in that form. And I have another one that was written after that takes place again in the far future, where a guy ends up coming back to Earth and plant life has changed, and there's a lot of plant life that corresponds to technology and gadgetry that we have now. Things that can be done like the internet, but in plants. So what's next? I don't know. It sounds far-fetched and weird, but I always try to play it very straight and be credible to almost any kind of reader, whether they're a deep, hard science fiction reader or not.
Interesting process. Hey, so are you a big social media guy? Do you have a website? Do you do TikTok videos? Like, where do people find Scott Overton?
My website is simply www.scottoverton, like SCOTTOVERTON.ca or .com. Either one will get you there. It'll redirect. And that is always Scott Overton Central. That has sample chapters for each of the book. It has links to book trailers or the book trailer right there. It has an ebook store. So that is the base operations. But I am on Facebook. I do have a Facebook author page, and that's the social medium that I use the most. I am on Twitter/X, but not much, especially since it's turned into a dumpster fire in many ways. So I don't do that a lot. I'm not on TikTok. I kind of feel that's a generational thing a bit. I I might explore it sometime. So not too much other social media. My website certainly is the place to start, or my author Facebook page.
Well, we'll have all that up on the website so people can find it easily. And what can I say? It's been great. We appreciate you coming on the show. And Oceanus, and it's Scott Overton. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, guys. It's always a treat to talk to you. We could talk for hours, but I know you're time limited. So invite me back another time instead.
Sounds good. Absolutely.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Scott.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.